Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to Employment Pathways that Connect Learning Experiences with Job Opportunities. Our speakers today are Elizabeth Miller with Concentric Sky and Michael Trest from Jones College. I just want to remind everyone that at the end of this session, at the end of the 30-minute presentation, we're going to keep the line open for an open discussion and Q&A session with the Concentric Sky Badgr team. So you're welcome to hang on, but you can also use the chat for any questions that you have throughout the presentation. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Michael.
Okay, and I think I'll get us started. We'll get this party started. Thank you for coming to our session. Hi to everybody that I know. Hi to everybody that I don't yet know. I am Elizabeth Miller. I'm the Director of Client Solutions and Partnerships for Badgr. So work with a lot of organizations, higher ed, K-12, corporate, who are instituting really impactful digital credentialing programs. I will tell you that I come to this conversation as a teacher by training and trade, having done thousands of hours of teacher professional development in my career also. So that's really my perspective on digital credentials generally. I am so pleased to introduce you to Michael Trest from Jones College and the Mississippi Online Workforce College, who is one of our partners in this work and is doing kind of amazing sorts of things with digital credentialing. So Michael's going to kick us off and I'll turn this over to him. I'm going to put myself on mute and turn off my camera so I'm not chewing up any more bandwidth than necessary, but it's good to see you all. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks so much, Elizabeth. I can't tell you how much I appreciate being able to be here because we are so excited about what we're doing. Like she said, I'm Michael Trest. I'm from Laurel, Mississippi. Maybe you've seen the HGTV show that's just the same Laurel. And I work at Jones College. It's just a community college here. But our president is a kind of a visionary, and he had this idea to bring online workforce training to our area. And our community college board loved it so much, especially when COVID hit, that they were like, okay, we want you to do it for the whole state. So we had to take a step back. And the way that Mississippi Community Colleges are organized, there are 15 of us. And we all have these different regions, but we have relationships with each other and with our local industry and partners there. And so we've developed a consortium that we're calling the Mississippi Online Workforce College. And I want to show it to you, but let's get started with just a little bit of a kind of a teaser video, and it's only about 45 seconds. Don't turn your headphones up real loud, please. So we're calling this thing the Mississippi Online Workforce College. And instead of giving you a whole lot of facts and a lot of information about it, I want to kind of walk you through a learning journey of an employer and a learner. And the way that we're doing all of this really hinges on the idea of digital credentials. It's all going to be tied together. But the lady that you see here, her name is Susan Smith, and she's a training manager at Acme Company in Clarksdale, Mississippi. And she needs someone very specific to work for her. She needs someone who has a good understanding of precision measurement tools, specifically calipers. Now, somebody else I want to introduce you to is Robert. Robert, he's 19 years old. He likes to play the guitar, and he's from Greenwood, Mississippi, but he needs a better job, right? The Online Workforce College is designed to help people who are generally underskilled and underemployed, and Robert meets that to a T. The problem is whenever he goes to work, he goes to the interview at Acme Company, he doesn't know anything about calipers. So he doesn't meet the need of the employer. And even though he's a great kid, he's got a great personality, and it seems like a good work ethic, he just doesn't have the skills that he needs to be able to meet this, right? So he goes online to look up what a caliper is, and he comes across an ad, right? And he sees that he can get trained in these online, or in this skill set by a platform in Mississippi. And so what we've done here, we've curated a content library of over 700 courses that span, from employability to technical skills. And he decides, I'm going to do this. The courses, they're only about an hour long. And when you finish, you wind up with a digital credential, a badge. And so he decides, I'm going to do it. I'm going to pay my $15, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to take this course. He goes through it. The courses are very interactive and engaging, ADA compliant, and in the end, while we're all here, he earns a badge. Now, one thing that we really liked whenever we were deciding, how do we prove to employers what the learner has accomplished? And we found Badgr, and we began digging into it. And we liked that, these badges aren't just pretty pictures, but they're full of data that the employer can take, look, and see, and prove what the person has learned, right? They can see the references, they can see how the skills are aligned, and that these badges belong to the learner, right? So speaking of badges, Elizabeth.
So we want to give you a badge because you have joined us today. We are grateful for your presence, and it's always nice to, in the parlance of the industry, to eat your own dog food. So there is a QR code on the screen, and I'm also going to drop a link into chat. That's right, Rob. Badge swag is exactly what we're going for here. This is the badge image, but of course a badge is not just an image. A badge is a data object. It is a digital data container. And so if you either scan that QR code or click the link that I just dropped into chat, the system's going to ask you for your email address. We need to know where to send the badge, and we need to know where to send the award email that will contain the badge. And then you'll click claim badge. And if all goes well, you will get digital confetti, which is frankly the best part of any day. Digital confetti is lovely, and you never have to sweep it up. So you should have, if you've done all that, you should have digital confetti. And I'll just tell you, Badgr, now I know who got the badge. You have become part of my badge award data. So we can, we'll take an opportunity in just a couple of minutes to actually go directly into Badgr and look at what Badgr can offer. But now you've got a badge for attending this session. So thank you so much for coming and joining us. And we are happy to answer any questions that you might have. If you want to drop those into chat, I'm kind of keeping an eye on chat while I'm talking, which is a little more than my brain can handle at the same time. But I'll keep checking in there and make sure that we get your questions answered as we're going through. And now I'm going to turn this back over to Michael to tell the rest of the story about how these digital badges are supporting workforce development.
Yeah, so the way that this works, kind of stepping back a little bit, this badge isn't just from some company online, right? But like I said, this is a consortium between the community colleges across the state of Mississippi. And one thing that we have in order and able to do this kind of meets our niche is that we have name recognition, right? We have relationships with employers. We have relationships with people like Robert, whose brothers or family members may have gone to the community college. And even if, like Robert, he said, I'll probably never go to college. He knows about his local college. Well, he's from Greenwood, Mississippi. That's in the Delta. And so he has this relationship with Mississippi Delta Community College. Michael, why is that important? Because whenever he comes to the employer, he comes over here to Susan and he says, listen, I know about calipers now. Here's a badge that's proving that I know what I'm talking about. This badge is issued from Mississippi Delta Community College. And also, let's go on to the next slide. Also, this badge isn't just a one-time event. We can arrange these badges into pathways. Recommendations can go across all of our content areas, and we have where people can shop, for individual skills, but they can also open the doors to pathways. And that's really what this is all about. There's so many people, especially in time of COVID right now, who don't have a job or who would love a better job. So what we're trying to do is open doors for future opportunities. And so if he starts with this calipers badge, this calipers badge can lead down multiple different pathways, because remember, this is just individual courses that we can combine to make into career paths and everything else. And so here is Robert, now that he has maybe gotten his CTE degree from the local community college, because of that initial badge and stepping forth, he can talk to Susan about how he got this. Now, Susan has a unique opportunity because she has a relationship with the community college. She can work to develop pathways and programs based on the credentials that we have to offer to make pre-hire trainings or professional development trainings. And so in this image, she's envisioning how she can go about and create these pathways and programs. So we can go on to the next slide.
Okay, so this is really Susan's dream world, right? Where you can stack a number of training opportunities together, focused on a particular job role. Am I getting all this right, Michael?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So this is a tool that we offer in the Badgr platform. It's called Pathways. And what Pathways lets you do is to stack, well, let me show it to you live. We'll just go straight into Badgr and take a look at this particular pathway live. And it's really tiny on my screen, so I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger for you. Each of the elements in this pathway is satisfied by the acquisition of one or more badges. Basically, Pathways is a big rules engine that you can use to stack these badged elements together, doing things like establishing prerequisites. So you have to do all 4 of these things before you can complete this section of the pathway. But I don't really care in this particular design what order you do these 4 things in. Through the pathway itself, you can get more information about what the badge that satisfies that element of the pathway represents. So this is the calipers badge that we've been discussing during this presentation. And through the pathway, I can see the badge. I can see where that badge is coming from. I can see the description of the badge. I can see the narrative about what you have to do, the earning criteria for the badge. This is all part of the metadata that lives inside of one of those digital data containers that that badges actually are. The value here is really at least twofold. First, the organization that's awarding the badges, in this case, the Mississippi Online Workforce College, is able to track everything a learner is doing and to see them getting those badges and to see where the gaps might still exist and what they need to do to fill in those gaps. For an organization like the Acme Company, Susan gets to have data in her hands about what her workforce knows and can do and has experienced. That data from those badges and from Pathways is machine readable and allows her then to track the workforce, the development that her workforce is undergoing, to see what they know and can do, again, what their gaps might be and how she can empower them to fill those gaps. And then to be able to see across her workforce who has the skill set, who has the stack of knowledge, skills, abilities, experience that are going to equip them for not only existing job roles, but Susan knows that there are things coming down the pike that she's going to need to have a prepared workforce for. New machines that are coming online, new systems that need to be managed and operated. And so she can start to provide that training to them and capture that training in those digital badges. And then for John, as the badge recipient, as the learner in this scenario, he is equipped not only for his current role at Acme, but he is equipped for really a career, for being able to have the baseline that he needs to have a job now, and to have a promotion later, and to have a new job at a different company even after that. So those badges are really acting for all of those organizations. They're able to leverage them in all sorts of different ways. And then there is kind of the, what I think of as icing on this very rich layer cake, is those badges are getting exposed. They're getting shared to social media. I have a badge in my email signature, and every time that badge is exposed, it exposes the brand of the provider, in this case, Mississippi Online Workforce College, and it exposes the skills and competencies and knowledge and experience that the badge holder has through all of that badge metadata that is accessible when that badge is shared. And then this, a pathway will let you include in it badges that aren't you. So all of the badges that you see in this pathway, save this one, all of these are from the course catalog that Mississippi Online Workforce College is providing, that catalog of 700 different short courses, targeted short courses, kind of JIT training, right? Just in time training that they're providing, that an organization like Acme can stack together to represent a particular job role, and can include in that pathway badges from just about anywhere. So for instance, this is a Microsoft badge. That's a real badge that Microsoft really provides. There are lots of kind of what I think of as public training providers. Microsoft is one of those. Anybody can show up and take the course and do the assessment. Microsoft will award a badge. There are lots of those kind of out in the world where people can go and get digital credentials for all sorts of reasons. It's entirely possible that your organization has partners that you work with. So in this case, Acme is partnering with the Mississippi Online Workforce College. You may have similar partnerships with higher education institutions in your area. So you may be awarding badges, and that higher ed institution may be awarding badges, and you might want to stack them together into a pathway for your learners. It's also entirely possible that you have other partners that aren't in higher ed. Maybe they are vendors into your organization. And so those supply chain vendors are providing training on things that they're supplying to your organization. There's lots and lots of ways that you might want to take advantage of training that somebody else is providing that you can point your learners to. So I can't, and Acme can't, and Mississippi Online Workforce College cannot award these badges. They are Microsoft badges. They have to be awarded by Microsoft. But once they are recognized on the pathway, just like all other badges are. This is the glory of the Open Badges 2.0 specification. It means that badges from every platform and from every issuer are fully interoperable, and Pathways takes advantage of that. It lets you stack those badges together along a single pathway, point your learners to it, enroll your learners in it. And then when they move through that pathway, they will see their own progress. It gets basically checked off. You get those little green checks as you complete an element on a pathway by acquiring the one or more badges that satisfy that element. You get to, the learner gets to see their own progress. The creator of the pathway, in this case, the Acme company and Mississippi Online Workforce College, get to see the progress of the learner, so that everybody can see what's been completed, what's yet to be completed, and where this whole thing is going. And then pathways will, at the end of the day, when the pathway is completed, will automatically award this completion badge at the end of the pathway, so that the learner is fully equipped not only with the intermediate steps, those kind of just IT at JIT, or single course level badges, or single webinar level badges, or single skill level badges, but they will see, they'll get that kind of larger, weightier, more meaningful credential that is shareable, just like all badges are. And the entire pathway is shareable, including a learner being able to share their own progress along the pathway. So there's enormous amount of power in pathways when you use it to kind of meet the ongoing needs of learners, their immediate needs, and the needs of the organizations that those learners are operating inside of, whether that's a school or a company. It's all kind of a piece, with digital badges being kind of the glue that holds everything together. So when you award a badge, I'm just going to show you this one last piece. When you award a badge in Pathways, Badgr will show your learners those next opportunities, the next piece of the world that they will be able to take advantage of with this Pathways Opportunities piece. So, and I have a little bump in my slide right here. That's what that is. That's not a Badgr problem. This badge that John has gotten, this Calipers badge, appears on this International Code Council pathway. And he can then step to the next part of his learning journey by stepping into this ICC Certified Mechanical Inspector pathway, using the previous work that he's done as part of the next learning journey that he wants to step into. And if that raises any questions for you, that went pretty fast. I'm so glad that you can see me waving my hands. I make a lot more sense when you can see my hands than I do when you can't. So, but if there are any questions that you have about that, we are happy to take them in chat. I will also drop into chat just so that you have it and it kind of easy access. My direct email address, this is everywhere, but this will just make it easy for you to put your hands on if you want to grab that email address. You can drop me a note. We're more than happy to talk about this. I know that that Michael's always happy to talk about what Mississippi Online Workforce College is doing. So we'll make sure that you get his email address too. You're going to have your inbox full, Michael. I hope that's okay, to answer
Perfect.
questions about this program, which really takes advantage of not only the power of digital badges, but the power of workforce development that is that meets learners where they are and then moves them to the place where they need to be. All right, Michael, I'll let you finish up here.
Yeah, and really just kind of piggybacking on that, Elizabeth, the power of pathways cannot be understated. It was that idea that that one badge leads to another badge, leads to another badge, leads to success, but continued success. You know, the catchphrase is a lifelong learner, right? But I mean, truly working in this idea even from K-12 all the way to your job. At our college, with whether it's academics or CTE or whatever, has been adopted the phrase, everything we do is workforce training. Because why do you go to school? You go to school to get a job, right? Even if you're going to school to be a teacher, you're still trying to get a job. And the idea of a pathway really kind of is what led us to Badgr, right? Because everybody else had these badges, but Badgr had not only this idea of a pathway, but this great UI that could show, and now here was the kicker for our community college board, that you could show progress to an employer and they could see. So if an Acme developed a pre-hire training or a professional development training, they don't have to call Jones College to say, where is so-and-so on the training plan? They just log into Badgr and see they're a staff member in that issuer. And so they can see the progress that John is making. And, you know, this image here is just Robert. He's 2 years later become a master trainer at Acme Company, and he's helping to lead these professional developments. Because being a community college, we can develop our own content. And that's the thing. We can develop content in cooperation with the companies. So perhaps Delta Community College has developed their own badges in cooperation with the OWC, you know, and I mean, it really is just for us to have these pathways and these badges in this kind of platform, online learning, just really opens doors for us to be able to help employers in our area and learners in our area, but also gives opportunities to employers as well. So that's really all I've got. Elizabeth, do you have anything else?
Well, there's, you know, for those of you who know me, I can talk about these things all day. We would love for you to participate in this conversation, though. So if you're doing things that are in the area of workforce development, if you're using digital credentials to empower learners to get to find the job and do the job that is important for them in their own life, then we would love to hear about that. Either now, which we've got about 30 minutes to really kind of have a conversation, or I just really generally love to hear about that if you've got some things that are going on that are really leveraging digital badges on behalf of those learners. So some folks in this room that I know quite well, and others that I don't know at all. If you'd like to kind of share with this group, which I think has come because they're very interested in workforce development, we would love to hear that. Just remember that you are currently on mute, and you'll need to unmute yourself in order to talk. I will tell you that I say my smartest things when I'm on mute. I can never really remember them once I'm not on mute anymore, but I'm a genius on mute. So remember that. Anybody have something that they'd like to, any of their programs that they'd like to talk about? And
Rob asked an interesting question in chat. He said, how do these tools integrate within your existing learning experience? I don't know if this is what you mean, but one of the niches that we found for the OWC and kind of the use cases is that what we were trying to do was not cannibalize anything that our community colleges were already offering, but help us to reach people that weren't already being reached. And since we're a community college, being able to take this online workforce training and crosswalk it to our 4-credit opportunities, taking these badges that they've earned and say, okay, this badge, this caliper badge, or welding, let's use welding, for example, because you can't learn to weld online. I don't care how good the content is, you have to put your hand on a torch, right? But what we're doing, we're working with our CTE programs, and each of the colleges that will be involved in this are working to crosswalk this, so that this number of badges inside of OWC equates to this much 4-credit at the college. So once again, Robert may never have dreamed that he could go to college, but because he was trying to get a job, he got caliper training, opened up pathway opportunities. Now he's got steps into a very doable and attainable CTE degree and a much better job, hopefully, right? So I hope that answered your question, Rob. Kimberly, great question. How did you engage with your employers and show them the value of digital credentials? Did anything particular bring them on board? So we started small. This was initially a very local project for Jones College, because we were trying to just find new ways to help our employers. And so we've got some international companies that are just right in our doorstep. And we went to them first and we said, what do you need? What is it that you really need to be able to increase your training effectiveness? What are the gaps that you're missing? And we took that knowledge and we did some research in a cooperation with the university of us, and we developed this plan for the OWC. And we said, okay, listen, this is what we've got. We've got online skills trainings that can be combined and mixed and matched. The content is key because it was developed by industry for industry. And the big kicker was that they could monitor the progress of their employees through this process using the Badgr pathways. Another thing that was really key was that their students and they didn't have to go to offsite to training, right? They didn't have to come and spend all day or 2 days at a training session. These are 24/7 available online trainings. That was very important to them. And the flexibility that they could mix and match. One company made an electrician training, and they said, we like this course, this course, this course. We don't need that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. And they developed this pathway. Yes, just like this. They developed this pathway in cooperation with our workforce school to meet their needs. And then they just, we invoiced them and wrote a PO, and then showed their HR department how to get on and monitor the progress of their employee through that, right? And so all of those things were very, very pivotal to that. But progress monitoring and being flexible, how scalable this is, right? Since it's online, it's self-paced. There's no seats. I mean, you can make seats, like the number of seats if you want to, but like we can service a small business of 2 people, or 100 people, 1,000 people at a time, because there's no class sizes, right?
Right.
And in Mississippi, for like reimbursement purposes for workforce, and I can't get a whole lot into that because I don't know a lot about that, but I know that like some of the enrollment processes for the existing trainings were kind of a hindrance, that this meets the needs of class sizes in order to get reimbursements and those sorts of things. And if you want to reach out to me, I can get some of my workforce specialists on a call, and we can all sit down and talk about how this really worked and how we were able to help employers. I guess the value of digital credentials, our digital credentials, since we're an accredited institution in the state, they didn't have to think, where are these guys from? Well, they know us. A lot of them have degrees from our schools, and so that value is kind of intrinsic in our name and in the community college across the state. And so we didn't have to work hard to say, hey, these badges are worth something, which is a pretty neat niche, I think.
So I love that, really taking to employers like a stack, right, of courses and saying, we've got all this content already available to you. All you have to do really is kind of pick the pieces that make sense for a particular job role or for your organization. The other way we see this working, and I'll just use Washington State as an example, they went to the big employers in their area and said, we want to make sure that you have a well-trained and equipped workforce available to you to fill the job roles that you have. And we want to make sure that we're kind of exposing our students to the possibilities that they might not even know about. And they're starting at K-12. So in Washington State, I think there are 3 currently alternative graduation paths where you can get a high school diploma going through a very specific set of courses that one set is an aerospace pathway. Those courses were developed in conjunction with Boeing. So it's all the things that you want, as someone graduating from high school to have done, to do English and history and math and chemistry. But a lot of that work really has an aerospace focus to it. So you can teach kids math in any context. And if you can teach them math in the context of being a technician on, a 767, then they're learning math and they're learning about this job role that they could take, and and Boeing is kind of feeding knowledge into that system. They also have a workforce, an alternative diploma that they've done in conjunction with the Associated General Contractors of America, which is, AGC is the largest, I think it's one of the 2 or 3 largest professional and trade associations in the country. They do a ton of training on their own, and now they've partnered with the public school system in Washington State. And then there's a third one, there's a maritime diploma, and I can't remember who they partnered with for that to come up with that content. But in that case, they really turned around to those big employers in their state and said, what do you need? How can we work together to make sure that our students are getting what they need in that they're being engaged in high school because we don't want them to drop out, that they have a line of sight to a job and a career after they leave high school. It just became one of those, just like what Mississippi Online Workforce College is doing. It becomes a win-win-win where the employers, the educators, and the learners all get what they need out of those programs. So it feels like there's a couple of entries that you can take into kind of, what do employers need? What do learners need? What do we need as an organization providing that training or providing that learning? I don't know, was that helpful, Kimberly?
And kind of an unspoken but very real impact is the economic impact. You're helping people to get off unemployment or get better paying jobs, right? And that multiple point of entry is huge. And the kind of our vision steps are to kind of pattern after this Washington State initiative and bring in K through 12, bring in other entry points, Department of Corrections, deployment of employment security, those sorts of things to help people to get on board this track to get better paying jobs. And in the end, it'll help everybody out.
Good. I love that. Any other questions, or anybody want to share a story about what you're doing, about how you may have addressed some of these concerns, how you may have worked with employers as you're kind of putting your own programs together? We just really love to hear about those. That's the fun part of this work is there's super interesting stuff. It's the fun part of this conference is that there's really interesting stuff going on out there, and I always learn something new. So if you would like to be the next person to teach me something new, this is your opportunity.